Well, this is one of the more exciting new four-wheel drives to hit Australian shores in recent memory, and it's something that actually might take on the mighty Land Rover Defender. This is the Lexus GX550. It looks awesome, doesn't it? I think we've got the pick of the range here. This is the off-road hero called Over Trail, and in this review, we've got plenty to get through. We will check out the inside of this GX550 Over Trail to see if it keeps up with providing an upmarket experience for those inside. We're going to see what this GX is like on-road, including country roads like this one. And of course, what did you expect? We're going to test this bad boy out off-road. This Lexus GX550 Over Trail is priced from $122,250 plus on-road costs. And this test car we have here has the optional titanium carbide two-tone paint job that costs another $4,200. This model shares a lot of spec with the less expensive luxury variant, but we've got 5 seats here instead of 7, and adaptive dampers and EKDSS active sway bars underneath. 18-inch wheels are wrapped in 32.5-inch Toyo all-terrain tyres, and the body of the Over Trail is sculpted for some extra off-road clearance overall. On the inside, Over Trail gets heated and vented front seats with electric adjustment and memory for the driver, a 14-inch infotainment display, head-up display, 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, and some other goodies like a 360-degree camera system, 3-zone climate control, and a refrigerated center console. Now, I'm a big fan of getting off-road and doing some testing like this of new four-wheel drives on the Australian market, but I've got to say, if you enjoy watching this stuff, please let me know by giving me a thumbs up on the video. Now, I can already hear all the jokes in the comments about leaving this car in primer and forgetting to paint it, but I've got to say, I do like this flat grey paint of the car, and overall, this does look really handsome. The fact that Lexus haven't gone to town on the grille like they did in the LX that has that sort of groper mouth, huge grille, I think it pays dividends here. And in terms of the look overall, it's a real step change for Lexus, I think, and maybe Toyota more broadly. This is a really boxy look, but this bonnet is certainly imposing. We do have LED headlights there, which is nice, but check out this windscreen. That is a big, tall, flat A-pillar there. It's got a flattish looking windscreen, I suppose. It definitely does have a curve in it, but aerodynamics is playing second fiddle to looks here, absolutely. Now, we do have a lot of black, shiny cladding on the outside here around the windscreen wipers and up here on the roof rail as well. Now, one thing I noticed when I was driving this car, these side mirrors, they are super boxy. It looks like they've pinched those straight off the old FJ Cruiser in the catalogue, I feel. But it adds to the aesthetic of the car, I think. Plastic side steps on this model here, they do feel fairly sturdy. Hopefully we don't smash those off-road a little bit later, but these tyres will definitely be getting a workout. Because we've got the Over Trail here, we've actually got Toyo Open Country all-terrain tyres. Now, these are not a light truck tyre. That means they're not as puncture resistant, but they should offer a better ride overall. But in terms of off-road performance, these will certainly be an improvement. Also, these are on an 18-inch wheel. Other specs of GX, they're going to be 20s and 21s for around town. But if you do want to go off-road, or hey, you just want the off-road look, this would definitely be the way to go. But there's plenty to look at the back as well, and it could be even a better angle than the front. So let's have a look. Now, this is the first time that Lexus has brought the GX to Australia, and I think that's why it's a really exciting model. This is closely related to the Toyota LandCruiser Prado, but what you might not know actually is that the Lexus GX has been a mainstay for Lexus more globally speaking, and in particular in the United States for many years, a couple of generations, 2 decades of time on the ground. So this, globally speaking, isn't a new model. But what's new with this one is that now the LandCruiser Prado and the Lexus GX share a platform with the big brother, Lexus LX and LandCruiser 300 series. Now, that is an interesting one, and I think from the rear here, you can see a bit of that relationship play out here. This is a bit more square and boxy, and I can see little design elements of the LandCruiser 300 series around there. Now, one thing to note out, I've seen this in a lot of cars at the moment, this strip that goes right across from side to side. That's a really
popular thing, I suppose, for designers at the moment. From the rear, I think this does look really cool. You've got an underslung spare there. That is a proper full-size spare. That's an all-terrain on an alloy wheel, which is always great to see. You could do a 5-tyre rotation on this car if you wanted. Now, one thing I do really like in this GX, and I've seen it in recent years on the current LandCruiser Prado, is this. You've got a full regular opening tailgate, but also a little hatch there, which is the glass door. That is really handy for opening up without opening up the whole rear door. You can chuck stuff in, you can see what's going on. It's just a really handy fixture. And also, it's nicely sealed so you won't get too much dust when you're off-road. So here's the interior of the new Lexus GX, and this is a very different car, I think, for Lexus overall, and it feels different on the inside here. It's definitely not as luxury, I suppose. Probably not as ostentatious as what you'd get in a Lexus LX, for example, that feels like maybe for some people it could be a little bit more gaudy. This is quite understated, I think. We've got, well, it's a bit less premium. I do have a couple of harder plastics around the place. This doesn't have the same mix of colors and materials as you get elsewhere. This is the Overtrail model, by the way, but it's mostly dark colored. We've got a little bit of chrome style plastic around the place, but it's mostly black overall. I like it. I don't mind it. It does the job quite nicely, I think, and it feels extremely solid in terms of the build quality. That is exactly what you would expect from a Lexus. Now, of course, we've got a big old infotainment display here. This is the most recent Lexus setup that we've seen in other recent models. We've got some built-in dials here for things like climate controls. There is a volume dial there as well, which is always great to see. But the operating system, it's nice and simple, and there's lots of processing power and that sort of thing built in here. So I don't have any issues with this setup here. Now, further down, we've got a fairly interesting setup of sort of wood grain here. You fold down this little Duvalaki, and you've got a 12-volt power outlet there, which is interesting. There's 2 USB-C power outlets, and then some drive mode selects here for, that's mostly your off-road stuff, and a bit of towing as well. Now slide this forward. I do like this actually. Instead of going for wood paneling or fake marble or something like that, this is kind of, I don't know, it's just plastic, but it's maybe not as fancy as others, but I like that it seems quite honest, I suppose, in its presentation. In here, you'll find 2 nice deep cup holders. That is pretty good. And also a wireless charging pad here further back. Now, of course, this is probably a little bit more in the Lexus LX style, and old LandCruisers for that matter, but this center console in this model does have a cool box function, so you can throw some drinks and sandwiches in there to keep them cold. Now, in front of the driver, you've got a digital instrument cluster there. You might not be able to see it from your current angle because it's kind of buried a little bit deep into the dashboard here in terms of the style and the design, but it works well, it looks good. We've got a nice steering wheel here. Now, we haven't driven the new LandCruiser Prado yet, so we don't know what that is like on the inside, but for my money, although this does seem a little bit more understated than other Lexus vehicles, it does feel quality in a few key areas, and I think that is important for this kind of buyer. Here's the second row of the GX, and it's certainly going to be an important facet for family buyers. So first things first, this is my driving position up front. I'm a little bit under 6 foot tall. I do sit a little bit close to the steering wheel perhaps, but as you can see here, I've got a fair amount of leg room left over. I've got a little bit of room here for my feet underneath the seat in front, but when I bring my feet backwards, there's a hard plastic piece of cladding here that kind of juts out forward a little bit, and it stops me from maybe getting as comfortable as I would like in the back here. I've noticed that my thighs are off the seat a little bit. I've got to say, if you closed your eyes and forgot that you're in a Lexus, you probably wouldn't feel like it. The seat is a little bit firm as well. I suppose it's fine. It's fine. It's just not as good as what you get in the front seat. So you do feel like you take a little bit of a step backwards in here. But otherwise, we've got air vents up in the roof here, so there's none down here, but you do have air conditioning controls, which is nice for those in the back seats. You can kind of control your own destiny in that regard. Plus 2 USB-C power outlets and a fairly pronounced transmission tunnel here. This is a vehicle that is obviously 4-wheel drive. There's a gearbox and transfer case, and that takes up room. But one thing you have to note there, that is, if you are going to sit in the middle, your leg room is going to be down in each side like this, or you're going to be tucking your knees up in the middle. So it's probably not the most perfect 5-seater if you've got 3 growing kids in the back whose legs are getting longer and longer all the time. But as a 4-seater, it's not too bad. And of course, as is customary, you have a drop-down armrest in the middle here with 2 cup holders. So the second row here, it's good. I think it's good enough, but it's not fantastic and probably not in keeping with the high levels of Lexus luxury that you expect and what you get up front.
Going from 7 seats to 5 in this Overtrail spec does yield more boot space with 1,036 litres available. It's nicely squared off and you've got a handy household power plug there. But the hangover of 7 seats means you've also got some usable cup holders here for storing your little bits and bobs, as well as 2 USB-C power outlets. Under the bonnet of the GX550 is a 3.4 litre twin turbocharged petrol V6, which makes 260 kilowatts and 650 Newton meters. This runs through a 10-speed automatic gearbox with full-time 4-wheel drive and a locking centre diff. Now this Overtrail spec also gets a locking rear diff as well as some off-road driving modes. But if you are in the market for a petrol, electric, hybrid, diesel, any car at the moment, head over to Drive Marketplace and check out the huge range of listings. Now you don't get air suspension or any kind of height adjustable suspension in this Lexus GX. That's something that you get in an LX or a Land Rover Defender, Range Rover, something like that. In here we've got a little bit more regular, I suppose, springs and shock absorbers. There's a live axle at the rear and independent up front, but this thing does still have a few tricks up its sleeve. It's got active dampers. Now you've got some different driving modes. There's also a custom driving mode you can select to change the way those dampers behave. And you've also got EKDSS. So that is effectively active sway bars in Toyota talk. And that operates the front and the rear, and they can operate separately to each other. That's something that debuted with the new 300 series LandCruiser. Don't forget that this now shares a platform with the 300 series LandCruiser, and it's operating here in this Overtrail. Now I've got to say, I've been driving this now for a couple of days and I've been spending most of my time in comfort mode. Now if you want, you can go into sport and then you can go into sport plus as well, and that firms things up a little bit. I think this car is definitely at its happiest in comfort mode. In terms of the ride quality, it feels maybe a little bit firm and busy still sometimes when you're going over smaller imperfections on the road, smaller potholes, little dips and that sort of thing. I'm about to go over some at the moment actually on this country road, and it does kind of bounce around a little bit on that, but I've noticed when you hit bigger bumps, this thing actually smooths them out really nicely, so that's pretty good in that regard. This car is the Overtrail. We've got all-terrain tyres here. They're not a light truck all-terrain, so you don't get that stiff sidewall. You don't get the puncture resistance either. But the ride is pretty good, I think, and there's not too much of a negative in terms of the amount of noise that comes into the cabin. This car still steers pretty nicely. It goes around corners well enough, I think, for a big four-wheel drive. It's still, you drive too quick into a corner, it tips and it understeers reasonably quickly, but name me a four-wheel drive that doesn't do that. I think they all do that to some degree. This is, I think, good enough, and it's pretty easy to punt around town. Now, in terms of the powertrain, we've got that twin-turbo V6 under the bonnet, running through a 10-speed automatic gearbox and full-time four-wheel drive. Now, that's a setup that's used in a few Lexus and Toyota vehicles. This is a pretty stout engine. I think, in comparison, the Land Rover Defender in a P400, that has a slightly more silkier and more charming inline-six character when it drives, but this thing is not left wanting in terms of performance. This thing pulls like an absolute train. You've got lots of power and lots of torque, and of course, a 10-speed gearbox, so no shortage of ratios to choose from either. It can feel maybe just slightly busy at times, that gearbox, in terms of selecting its gears, but most of the time it is really good. And for things like overtaking, getting up to speed on the highway, whatever it is, that is definitely no issue here. You've got, I would say, almost an excess of power for the application of this vehicle. It's very good in that regard. But the trade-off is, we've got a high-powered petrol engine in a big, heavy, boxy vehicle. It's not going to be the most efficient thing getting around, and we're averaging at the moment around 18 litres per 100 Ks. Now that has been
trending downwards after we've spent more time on the highway cruising around. And maybe if you do a lot of highway Ks, the fuel efficiency won't be too bad. But if you spend most of the time getting around the suburbs in stop-start traffic and that sort of thing, be prepared for a fairly hefty fuel bill because, well, this thing, let's face it, it's never going to be that efficient. But of course, we are in the over-trail model, and this is the off-road hero of the Lexus GX range. It's kind of almost our first taste of what a LandCruiser Prado might be like as well, which is quite interesting. Let's go for a drive and see how it goes off-road. Now, before I take on this hill and see if I can get to the top, just a quick note to make sure you are subscribed to Drive on YouTube, because if you are, then you won't miss out on future videos just like this one. Now, let's see how we go. I'm in low range, I've got the center diff locked and I've got the rear diff locked as well. Now, I was driving this car earlier with the rear diff lock disengaged and it did feel really confident actually in terms of the off-road traction control. It's very smartly tuned, it doesn't allow for much wheel spin overall, and there are some selectable modes to get through. I've been using rock crawl because of the sort of stuff I've been driving, but now coming up the hill, I've got that rear diff lock engaged, I've got the center diff lock engaged as well. And it's scrabbling around a little bit in places here. This is like a fairly dusty little section of the track here, quite rutted. One thing I'm really feeling with this car is a sense of stability, and that's not something you always get with a vehicle that has a live rear axle and independent suspension up front. Sometimes it feels like the rear's doing all the work and the front's kind of flopping around in the wind. I think I'm lifting wheels from time to time here, but this feels really stable and confident. And I've got good control through the throttle here. This big V6, it's got plenty of torque, it knows what's happening. It's giving me just what I need to keep crawling up. And I've got good clearance actually. I've driven a few vehicles up this hill at different times and they've bottomed out. I don't have any issues at the moment. And clearly these tyres are fantastic as well, these Toyota all-terrains. But man, this thing, it's literally not putting a foot wrong. There's tiny little bits of wheel spin there happening. But then it digs around and it just finds traction. Now I've got a suspicion that traction control isn't working on the front diff at the moment with the rear diff lock engaged, but normally that's an issue I suppose, but I can crawl at a low speed here. I've got lots of control, there's plenty of stability. This is a seriously impressive car off-road. Now, is this better than a Defender off-road, the new Defender? Listen, it's a neck and neck race from what I can tell here without having them back to back, but I think it's worth noting that it's a very different vehicle to drive off-road in comparison to that new Defender. This is almost a little bit more of a traditional take, I suppose. We've got a traditional center diff with gears. There's no clutches in there. We've got a locking center and rear differential. The new Defender has incredible capability, but it does it with this huge amount of complexity and sophistication through the driveline and the air suspension. And there are times when you can feel that car kind of taking over the driver in terms of delivering that capability. This Lexus GX, I nearly called it a LandCruiser there by mistake. It feels a little bit more traditional. The driver is in control of this car, and I think it will appeal a little bit more to the traditionalist and maybe the four-wheel drive enthusiast that wants to have all of that control rest on them instead of on the vehicle, if that makes sense. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there are plenty of four-wheel drives on the Australian car market, and there are plenty of listings on Drive Marketplace as well to check out. But this GX, I think, is going to be a bit of a cat amongst the pigeons on the Australian four-wheel drive scene. Lexus isn't a newcomer to four-wheel drive in Australia. They've been around for a really long time, but now with this GX, it's a little bit more accessible, I think. And I suppose this car is a little toned down, not as ostentatious and big and luxury as the Lexus LX. So I think it does hit possibly a nice sweet spot for a lot of buyers. And I think this is going to really compete head to head with the Toyota LandCruiser in terms of price, but also the Land Rover Defender, the Nissan Patrol, all of the important players in this part of the world. But one shortage, I think, in this vehicle is the lack of a diesel engine. There's a relatively small fuel tank there, there's a thirsty motor, so your driving range isn't massive. So for long range four-wheel drive touring, maybe this isn't the pick, but the family adventure car, this does hit a lot of right notes. And if you're hungry for more new four-wheel drive content, you definitely want to check out this video, because this is the all-new Nissan Patrol. There's no more V8, there's a V6, and there's plenty to talk about in this video.